Thank you, Aaron. Now, the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says the Supreme Court judgment over women's rights is a vindication of so much of what she fought for. Now, political editor Chris Hope sat down with her earlier on today in Cambridgeshire.
Kemi Badenoch, thank you for joining us today on GB News. Why did it take unelected judges to sort out the issue of what is a woman when you had 14 years in power?
Because judges had also been changing the definition. This went to the Supreme Court because at a lower court a different ruling was given. This case has been going on for years. I believe it started 2018, long before I became Equalities Minister. And there were many other things which I did when I was in government. You look at what happened in Scotland, where they were bringing in full self-ID. I was the one who stopped that, bringing in that Section 35 judgment. I also supported a lot of the people who'd been working on these cases. And I was bringing in legislation to emphasise that Sex and the Equality Act was biological, just as the snap election was called. I wasn't expecting that, but I spent my entire time as Equalities Minister really fighting on this issue. I even got abuse from David Tennant, you might remember. But it's one of those things where a lot of people have been scared to speak out. You need bravery, and I'm so pleased. I cannot tell you how pleased I am.
Do you have a message for the former Doctor Who star David Tennant?
I was right. And actually, what is now really clear is that the law explains something that all children know. Men are men and women are women.
Should the Gender Recognition Act be scrapped?
I think this is something that you would need a parliamentary review on. A lot of what's going on is actually people misinterpreting the law and saying the law says things that it doesn't mean. The Gender Recognition Act was brought in at a specific time before same-sex marriage. We often have reviews of legislation. This is something that we can do again.
Should all women's sports now be only accessible to biological females? All women's sports?
Yes, yes.
Across the board?
If the sport is biological, then yes, I think so. If it is something like chess, where it's not to do with physical attributes, I think that we can have. Exceptions there. But at the end of the day, it's very obvious. You shouldn't have men boxing women. You shouldn't have men swimming or running against women. We are biologically different, and that's something that needs to be recognised by all the sporting bodies.
Is JK Rowling now owed an apology?
By a lot of people, yes. I'm a big fan of JK Rowling. She is one of those women who's been incredibly brave, but she also did something really special, which is she supported other women. This was something that was so helpful, making sure that those who did not have a voice got support. I was a minister. When people attacked me, I could shake it off, but I also made sure that I helped those people who were losing their jobs and being hounded out and having their reputations damaged because of this.
We've seen record arrivals by small boats this week across the south coast of England. UK and France are now in talks about a returns agreement. Does this justify Sir Keir Starmer's attempts to get closer to France in tackling the small boats crisis?
We also got close to France. I remember Rishi Sunak having that big summit. This is not just about us having good relations with France. We need a third country deterrent. That's what the Rwanda plan was. Keir Starmer scrapped it. Now he's got no plan. He says he's smashing the gangs. Now arrivals are much higher than they were this time last year. The problem is getting worse, and he needs to get a grip on this.
Can I show this video of a newly arrived Sudanese man who arrived in the past few days? He's dancing around a rather smart hotel room.
It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. That is not what the asylum system is there for. It is not there so that economic migrants from all over the world can come in and live off the British state. Taxpayers in this country, hard-working men and women, are paying for that. That is not right, and Keir Starmer needs to get a grip.
We don't know his story. He may not be an economic migrant, but still in a rather smart hotel room dancing around.
Well, he's also clearly got a phone and somebody able to do videos for him. I know that's not that easy. So we need to stop letting our kindness being exploited in this way. There are a lot of people out there in the world who need our help, but we're not able to help them anymore because so many people are blocking the system. That needs to be fixed. Keir Starmer needs to get a grip. He needs to bring back the Rwanda plan or another third country deterrent and stop the boats that are coming to our country and exploiting our kindness and goodwill.
There are reports today of a trade deal imminently being done between the UK and US, and it might include US food coming to the UK. Would you eat chlorine-washed chicken?
No, I wouldn't eat it, but we have standards in this country that are in law. We didn't change our laws for any other trade deals. If we changed the law for the US, we'd have to change it for every other trade deal which we signed. So I don't think that that's something that Keir Starmer should be doing. A good trade deal is one that brings mutual benefits to both countries. There are many areas that we can do this around financial services, legal services, steel, for example. Let's start working in the areas that are going to build national resilience and security.
D-Day veterans are preparing to go to Normandy, to the beaches, to mark the end of the Second World War. The government says it'll work with veteran charities to support them getting there. But do you want to put money aside directly from the government to pay for D-Day veterans to get to those beaches?
I think so. There's only so much longer that they will be able to do this. And this is one of the areas where I believe that Labour actually did say they would do that. It's yet another broken promise.
Of course, it's St George's Day next week on Wednesday. Should that date be made a bank holiday?
No, I don't think so. I don't think we need more bank holidays. We need to get the country back to work. There's so many people who are out of work right now. So I'm really worried about the unemployment figures, which are getting worse under Labour, and we need to do something about that.
A new planet has been found a long way away that could support life. Which political rival would you send there?
I would not send anyone anywhere on a different planet. I think we should all be here on Earth looking after this planet.
And just finally, it is Easter. Columba cakes are selling out. Would you buy one for Easter? And what's your treat for Easter?
No, I'm looking forward to Easter because it means I can stop Lent. I gave up alcohol for Lent, so I'm looking forward to having a drink on Easter Sunday.
There we go, another cracking exclusive by our man Chris Hope. Sat down with Kemi Badenoch. I want to dive into that now. And also I'm joined in the studio for some reaction by the political commentator Andy Williams and the former Lib Dem Minister Norman Baker. Gentlemen, welcome to the studio. Chris, let's start with you. Have to say, I thought Kemi was in fine form there. And I believe you were firing a bunch of questions at her that she didn't know what they were, which always could catch them off guard. Let's start, if we can, in particular with the Mark White exclusive, that astonishing video of the Sudanese gentleman, I'll be kind here, in a hotel paid for by British taxpayers making a rap video on a phone. You showed it to Kemi Badenoch in real time, and her response was direct and from the gut. She said, it's a disgrace.
Yeah, appalled, I think. And how can someone in quite a smart hotel room who maybe arrived here in recent days, we don't know if he's an economic migrant or he may have a reason to be here, but look at that. I mean, that is just, almost boasting about the place he's being put in. And that, to many, is a problem with the government's position on small boats. A year ago, they had this idea of, the last government had the Rwanda plan. That was to deport migrants arriving here legally to Rwanda. They can't come back. Now that's gone. The pull factor is a hotel room, which he's putting there on his social media. Also, he did, Kemi Badenoch mentioned the David Tennant comments about women and what is a woman. And she said she was right. It's worth reminding viewers and listeners what David Tennant said last year at an awards ceremony. Here he is.
But I suppose, if I'm honest, I'm a little depressed by the fact that acknowledging that everyone has the right to be who they want to be and live their life how they want to live it, as long as they're not hurting anyone else, should merit any kind of special award or special mention, because it's common sense, isn't it? It is human decency. We shouldn't live in a world where that is worth remarking on. However, until we wake up and Kemi Badenoch doesn't exist anymore, I don't wish ill of her, I just wish her to shut up.
That there is the former Doctor Who star David Tennant saying she should shut up. Well, clearly, Kemi Badenoch feels she has the last laugh. I was right, she says.
Absolutely. Let's bring in my panel now. Norman Baker, Andy Williams. I'll start with you, Norman Baker. What do you make of Kemi Badenoch's performance there with Chris Hope?
It's better than she's been on several other occasions, and she's been pretty ropey in House of Commons quite a lot of the time. And it was interesting that she was able to respond to Chris without prior knowledge of the questions. So that was a better performance than I've seen before.
And what stood out for you? I mean, she was saying that Keir Starmer is a disgrace on letting the illegal immigrants flood over. But we must remember that was hardly a Labour Party problem. Has been going on for years, and the Conservative watch too.
Well, the reality is there were hardly any small boats if you go back 10 years, and there's been a massive increase since then. This is a Conservative problem, I'm afraid. It's getting worse, but it was a Conservative problem that started it. And, you know, talking about Rwanda is neither here nor there, because how many people went to Rwanda? Was it 2 or 3, I think, literally? And they went voluntarily. I mean, you know, the cost of that was absolutely fantastic for the taxpayer. So that wasn't a solution. And getting closer to the French and trying to get a returns deal is actually a sensible policy.
Andy Williams, she was seemed in good form on the trans issue. Of course, yesterday, that Supreme Court's ruling, having a dig there at David Tennant. She went a stage further. She doubled down and said, I believe that all trans athletes should be kicked out of all sports.
Well, that is a position she's been pretty consistent on. I agree with Norman. If I'm going to give Kemi Badenoch some credit, and I don't often do that, she did give some very direct answers to Chris's questions on a wide range of subjects, so fair play to her there. I think she has 2 fundamental problems. Number one is that the issues she wants to go on, like immigration and small boats, are major issues on which the Tories failed over an extensive period of time.
That's a fair point.
That is a massive problem for her. She may, over the course of a parliament, be able to shift public perception, but only if A, Labour don't sort it out, and B, if she's able to demonstrate how she is going to do something completely different, which is why I think the ECHR thing is still in play. The second problem is that, and I know it's early days, but all of the polling shows that she is not winning traction with the British public. And if you look at metrics like, is she likeable? Overwhelmingly not. Is she trustworthy? Overwhelmingly not. People don't like her, and she's not cutting through. Might change. If you looked at Keir Starmer in summer 2020, I don't think people would have overwhelmingly said he's the next Prime Minister, but she has not shifted the dial yet.
Norman Baker, but you've been around political leaders for a long time. I think it's fair to say that Ms Badenoch's performance is improving. She seems to be finding her feet.
It's improving, but I mean, look, I mean, she had a terrible inheritance, quite frankly. I mean, the way the Tories left government and what they did under Boris Johnson and Liz Truss is going to be a long time before people forget that. So she's starting from a very low base. She didn't start very well. She's getting better. But I agree with Andy. I mean, she's got a long, long way to go. And frankly, she's got another problem. The problem she's got is the local elections coming up, immediate problem, because she's going to get hammered. And they know they're going to get hammered because they've said so themselves. And she's got a pincer movement going on between, if she goes too far to the right, she loses votes, you know, trying to get reform votes. She loses the Lib Dem type people. And if she goes towards the Lib Dems in the centre, she loses the reform type people. There isn't a course, in my view, through the middle that keeps both the Lib Dem type Tories and the reform type Tories on board. OK, gentlemen, thank you very much. Chris, on that topic of reform, I think there's a breaking news story you'd like to bring to us on the latest between Rupert Lowe and the Reform Party.
Yeah, it carries on. I'm afraid it's sad to say, I think, for those watching this, a lot of viewers, listeners wonder why Lee Anderson, Rupert Lowe, Zia Youssef, the party chairman, and Farage himself can't get it all together. But we now understand that Rupert Lowe is saying that the statement put out by Lee Anderson and Zia Youssef about Rupert Lowe a few weeks ago that started the row makes libel remarks about him. He says unless these remarks are withdrawn, then he will issue high court proceedings. Now, he has no desire to litigate, he says, but he'll do what's necessary to ensure his reputation is restored. He says that these remarks have caused undue harm. The claims that he engaged in a serious workplace bullying, made multiple serious threats of physical assault and to injure also Mr. Youssef. So that's happened. Now, we've got hold of Lee Anderson, and he's told us this: they're not going to play this out in public, he says. If Mr. Lowe, not Rupert Lowe, Mr. Lowe, wants it in public in the media, that's up to him. We'll do it professionally with our legal team. So it's going legal. Don't forget, Rupert Lowe has got investigations already from Met Police and from the internal systems in the House of Commons. So big concerns, but it goes on, and these guys can't get together yet.
OK, Chris, so thank you for that exclusive, and thank you very much, Norman Baker and Andy Williams, for your expertise. Always a pleasure. Thank you.